Hey, what's up, everyone? Josh here with the Entrepreneur's Playbook, where we help 7 and 8 figure businesses ignite their financial superpowers. Here, as always, with Ron Parisi. Ron, how you doing
Oh,
this week?
great, Josh. Great to be with you as always, and great to be with our nation.
Yeah. Yeah, we were talking beforehand what we're going to talk about today, and you brought up the idea of talking about partnerships and what can go right and what can go wrong and what to look for and what to do ahead of time,
Yeah, I
right?
think one of my favorite terms recently has been intentional. And I guess let's set up the topic before we jump in. I'll set it up. Partnerships. We see a lot of prospects and clients come to us that have 50-50 partnerships. Usually, what happens is they have a business idea. They don't really know what the runway is, how successful it's going to be. And they say, okay, Josh, you and I, let's start a business. We're going to go 50-50, and they just start running. And from at least my recent experience is like the business does well. However, one of the partners decides they want to do something different. And there's no mechanism for what that looks like as far as what does the second partner have to do? Do they have the liquidity to buy them out? What is that purchase price? Voting rights? What happens if they have different opinions and it's 50-50? It's a deadlock. So there's a lot of like unknowns when you first get into that partnership. And then as it plays out, goes in a lot of different directions. And let's just maybe jump in. What's been your experience as far as seeing these 50-50 partnerships?
Yeah, like you said, that seems to be the most common one we see that people come to us at the partnership is 50-50, or if there's three of them, they own it in
Yeah.
equal thirds. And it's like marriage, right? Half the time it's really good, and half the time it ends up really bad. I've been on the side of both of those. I've had partnerships that went great. I had one that ended terribly, and it's hard. I think just like a marriage, you go into it thinking, "Oh, this is going to be great. This is going to work. We don't need all this other stuff that people talk about." And just things are stressful in business. Like things can change quickly. And two people that go into this thinking they're on the exact same page can very quickly find out that's not exactly the case as the business grows and important decisions need to be made on the future of the business. Yeah. What do you think? What are some things that people should go into to partnership planning and kind of
Yeah.
avoid?
I'll just add on and then I'll talk about that. Is that what we've seen is spouses. Maybe both partners are unmarried. They don't have significant others in their life. And then one or both of them have all of a sudden another voice at the table. And that's really where I've seen a couple of situations go south because, like you said, all of a sudden folks have different desires, different objectives than they did maybe a few years earlier. So things can change pretty dramatically. And what I mean intentional, like I don't mind the 50-50 model because sometimes you're not going to, if you and I go into business, who's going to get the 51%? You're not going to want to give
Right.
that up or nor do I. But I think that you really do need, we always suggest most people start a partnership in an LLC. LLC, your governing document over an LLC is an operating agreement. And that's really where you can get into the rights of the memberships, the membership interest. And the big thing back when I used to practice law is that we used to spend a lot of time on exits and how are these planned exits going to happen and really being intentional about the valuation of the business, the financing, because that's really big. So say you and I start a business, we start doing a million, two, $3 million, and all of a sudden we go out and we get it appraised, and that $3 million business is now is appraised at 6 million. We're a profitable organization and then I said, Josh, buy me out because I want to take my money and I want to go into crypto or some AI. I want my $3 million. And maybe you're not in a position to pay me the $3 million. What's going to happen then? And you definitely need to have like an exit strategy and then a financing piece as well. Is like, how's Josh going to buy Ron out or is how Ron going to buy Josh out? And there's other ways too, or there's other instances you got to really think about. Maybe you guys are always on the same page, but Ron meets a sudden demise, whether it's cancer or an accident, and you have to look at key man life potentially. Now you have an estate. Now Josh is a partner with an estate. So these eventualities, but I'm just saying, I think when you go into these 50-50 partnerships or a third, like you definitely need to be intentional. And I guess it's even outside the 50-50, any partnership, but be intentional, work with a very good attorney on the operating agreement. You just got to be careful because sometimes I've seen operating agreements never get signed because the attorneys like kill it before with a zillion questions. But definitely not start a partnership with a handshake. Be intentional. This is a business. And if you're serious about the business, you should be serious about setting the parameters early on. And that's my advice. But I'll pass it off to you,
Yeah.
Josh.
Yeah, no, I think that's all really good, and that's all the stuff that needs to be planned for, like, all the what if scenarios, just like with the business, like, plan for worst case scenarios. What if one of us wants to sell and the other one doesn't? How are we gonna address that situation? But not just, "I'll buy the other one out." Like you said, there's gotta be a plan for that because I don't have $3 million sitting in my bank account if Ron wants me to buy him out. How is that gonna be done? Is it gonna be done financed by the other partner? Whatever. What if one of you die? Is their estate going to get paid for their share? All of that stuff needs to be planned for because all of that is a possibility. And then even like in my case where we had to go bad, like there was 3 partners and one of us decided, "Oh, I want to be paid more. I should be paid more." And it just kept going and going until it reached a breaking point. So if you have those guardrails in place ahead of time, hey, this is what our plan is for compensation for ourselves. That's something you can refer back to and say, look, I understand that you want to do this, but look at this document we all signed. We're all in agreement. This is what it is. So yeah, I think that's key. You got to have that operating agreement. Like you said, the hard part, yes, bring it to an attorney, but then also make sure the attorney is clear, like we want to get this done. So we can't bog this down in details. We have to get something that we can get done.
Yeah, as I say, you gotta the attorney, they've been trained in law school. We've always been trained of what could go bad to look at the negatives, and sometimes you get bogged down. The entrepreneurs, that's the exact opposite. We're always looking at the glass half full. But you bring up a comp is a huge issue, right? How much money are we leaving in the company for future development, for future R&D, for future investment? Like a partner may want to just take all the money out and invest it in real estate and drain the company so you have no marketing money or you have no money to buy that next piece of equipment or things like that. So voting, money, salaries, exit strategies, just think be intentional when you get into those partnerships.
Yeah, I think you got to be prepared. There's like a human element to this too. Like we can put this all on paper, like, oh, this is what we're going to get paid and this is what it is. But then what if Ron's great at managing his money, but I go out and buy a Ferrari and a mansion and 2 years later, I have to have a certain amount of compensation to survive. And yes, Ron can say, here's the operating agreement. But if I'm sitting there crying and begging that I'm going to go bankrupt if I don't get more compensation, that's tough to handle. So those hard conversations need to be had up front. Hey man, you got to control your spending. If you get out of control with your spending, that's going to be on you. This is where we're going to be. Are we in agreement?
Yeah, I love that. Getting in partnerships, you gotta can't there's no drafting agreements out of doing business with bad people, or not necessarily bad people, but people maybe
People are
aren't gonna have
people.
the same life
Yeah.
choices that you are.
We are all messy and we all have our own things that go on and they affect everyone around us. And the last thing I'd say on this is be very careful about doing partnerships with friends or family. If it ends badly, it ends really badly. But in my case, it was a good friend and no longer is a good friend. If it ends badly, you're probably not going to be friends with that person anymore. So be very careful about who you go into business with.
Yeah, I love that last comment. Yeah. Early, I think I learned early on, like I did a partnership when I was in my 20s and just ended very badly. And I promised myself I'd never do another one. So I'm not, we'd have joint ventures and things like that, and I'm not completely ruling it out, but I think partnerships are great because you and I had a partnership, we bring in different skill sets, different attitudes. It's really powerful to have two people on a team or multiple people on a team. So we're not poo-pooing partnerships again, just being intentional.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point. Like we're talking about all the negatives here, just so you know about them. But partnerships can be a very good thing. And even after what I went through, I just had a meeting yesterday with someone that I'm forming a potential real estate partnership with. Because he's great at the rehab side, I'm good on the numbers side, and it makes sense on paper. But you got to go into that knowing what the
Yeah,
downsides
right.
can be.
Yeah, perfect. Hey, Josh, we'll appreciate another great session. And until next time, wish everybody a prosperous month. So thank you very much. Take care, guys. Yep.
All
Bye
right,
now.
see you next week.